speaker was recorded at an Addictive Eaters Anonymous event held in Dublin, Ireland in January 2023. For more information, visit www.aeainfo.org.
Thank you. I'm an addictive eater, and it's great to be with you all. Thank you very much for the meeting. Thank you for asking me to share my experience. I was never told that I was born with my mouth open, but I was told that when I was about 1.5 or 2 years. I was young. I got to be less than one. My grandma used to watch me. She used to babysit me, and so she would set me up on the couch, and I would roll over because I was so fat. I couldn't just sit up straight. So I got the nickname Fluffy, and that was my name as a baby, Fluffy. And that's fine. Babies are chubby, they're growing, that's normal. But I carried that along with me through my life. I just knew, oh yeah, I was fluffy. I'm fluffy. Even when I grew up and that wasn't the case, that's what I heard in my head. And when I got older, I guess I had chubby cheeks. I was probably 12 or so, around that age, and I was at soccer practice and another parent came up to me and they're like, "Oh, you look so good, but your cheeks are still chubby." And normally kids would just let that go, but not me. I carried that around. And yes, I am the fluffy girl with chubby cheeks in my mind. So I was always conscious. I don't know about always. For a long while, I was conscious of, I don't want to be too big. I don't want to abuse food. Obesity is a problem. I need to avoid this. I need to be conscientious. But I never really thought I had an issue with food, which is what we're talking about today. Is we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were addictive eaters. And I would have told you I didn't have a problem with food. I didn't even notice those things that I was carrying around with me until I got to this recovery. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I think a big moment is when, after I graduated from university, I no longer had school to be my structure. I did not have a job. I had ended a long-term, 7-year romantic relationship, and I was out of my mind. I had no idea what to do with myself. I felt horrible for taking the privilege and the hard work my parents had done to get me an education for the grant money that people donated so that I could go to university. I felt like a failure to all of those people. And so I needed something to feel okay with myself. And I thought, I didn't think. I chose food. I chose food. And let's see, I would find myself in the middle of the night eating from the cupboards. I would find myself falling asleep, waking up, then going to eat more. I would try to drive to work in the morning, and I would stop off and get a donut. People do that, right? That's normal. Just drop off and get a donut, but it wouldn't end for me. It would be one and then another and another, and sometimes it would be 2 hours before I actually got to work. Oh, this is after I eventually got a job, but it would be two hours later I got to work, or sometimes I just wouldn't even make it in that day because I would be so full of shame. Like, how could I do this? Be so irresponsible, eating uncontrollably. Why am I not being responsible? It was the shame and the guilt is heavy. It was a lot to carry. And the thing is, once I started eating, it felt a rush for 5 minutes. Felt really good. It was like, if I'm going to be miserable, at least I'm causing the misery. That's fine. But then after that, it was worse. It was like the remorse was more than I don't even know how to describe it with words. I heard someone say it's like the tiger was out of the cage. And that I feel like that was really true for me. It was like once I had ignited this something inside of me that was like, yeah, F you, then it just made it stronger. Yeah. And so I went to the dentist. Okay, so what happened to me was I went the other direction. I would have these binges, and then I would just say, okay, I'm never doing that again. So I'd write lists of everything I ate so I could track everything. The book talks about an insistent yearning to get control over it, to control and enjoy it. So I would have those moments of eating, and then I would write a list so I could have these rules, I could have track, I could balance. You're supposed to eat this amount of veggies and meat, and none of it was veggies or meat, but I would just write a list to try to keep control, and it didn't get control. So I just decided I would just restrict. I lost a lot of weight. Don't know the weight in stone, or it honestly doesn't even matter about the weight. What matters is the way I would just hated myself and my life, and my relationships with others were crumbling because it was like all of this tornado was happening inside of me. So if someone just asked you, how are you? I would be like tornado onto them, like throw up, explosion. It was just like, yeah, because I was like that inside. Couldn't help but come out when someone just said, how are you? So I went to the dentist because I was nervous that I was this underweight, that I would start to lose bone strength in my teeth. And I was very concerned that I would have nice teeth. So I talked to the dental hygienist, and I said, hey, I am losing weight. Do you think there's a problem with my teeth? And she said, no. Actually, I did not say, am I losing weight? I said, my parents say that my teeth are getting weak. Do you think there's a problem? And she said, no, but I have noticed that you've lost a lot of weight. And I go to a group because I have a problem with food. I have an obsession, and I eat compulsively. And I go to this group and find help. If you ever want to go, here's my number. And she gave me her card. And I wasn't going to use that. I don't have a problem with food, remember? I didn't think so. I didn't concede to myself I was an addictive eater. I thought it was all this, like, that I was a failure. I thought I was just too afraid to live. So I didn't, even when I went to my first meeting, I didn't think I had a problem with food, but I had nothing else to try. Like, I literally wasn't living day-to-day life. So I just went. I just went, and there were people there who talked about eating the way that I was eating. They talked about thinking about chocolate the way I did. They talked about helping others. That was my favorite thing. That the way that they helped others and helped each other, and they were really committed to this program. And so I just started going back. I went back to meetings for a year and a half, didn't make a commitment. I just went back to see what it was like. I got my own food plan because I went to a nutritionist and I was going to do this on my own, go with my own ideas. I tried that food plan, did not work. I just pretended like one food item would fit into 3 categories. You can rationalize a lot of things. So that's how I worked my nutritionist food plan. And the insanity in my head got worse. I was doing things I never thought I was breaking the law. I was stealing food. I was, punching my car radio, I mentioned recently. So finally, I was wandering. I was walking around a parking lot by myself on one holiday. I literally didn't know what to do. I had just been eating and I couldn't stop. And so I called a number of somebody at the meeting. And she said, when you're ready, you're ready. And I was like, okay. And she said, if you're ready, there's a meeting tonight, come to it. And I hung up the phone and I went back inside. I had an appointment to meet with my dad and I wasn't there. But when I went inside, I met my dad and I was like, sorry, Dad, I'm having a hard time. And I think I need some help. And he said, well, when you're ready, you're ready. And I was like, that was God to me. That was God in my life. So I went to that meeting, and I don't know, I'm getting all teary. It's so unnecessary. I went to that meeting, and I started the program of Addictive Eaters Anonymous. And I'm probably the slowest person to get through it. No, I don't. That's my ego. I'm very slow moving. But I just take the action today. No matter how I feel, afraid to sit here and speak to you, afraid to be recorded, afraid to let someone else tell me what to eat. I just take the action today. And God shows up in my life. I'm sober today. Been sober for like 3 3/4 years, and I'm living a functional life. I don't usually explode on people, but when I do, I have a program that helps me do better afterwards. So yeah, I just hope that I keep taking action so I could stay here in Addictive Eaters Anonymous, in the life of service and love and with my higher power. So that's all for me. God bless and thank you.